What's going on out there, soul mapping family? Thanks so much for tuning in to your Astral Weather Report. Special report for the weekend of August 10th and 11th, and we'll also be getting into a little bit of Monday the 12th as well. The Astral Weather Report is where I synthesize aspects of astrology, the I Ching, human design, gene keys, and a little bit of Akashic intuitive wisdom to give you a better idea of some of the energies that will be at play today, from the genetic all the way up to the cosmic levels. Well, definitely powerful and potent time of manifestation, karma, destiny, all these types of archetypes. There are some big cards on the play when it comes to movement of directions and energies within the cosmos right now. Moon has been making its way through Sagittarius, but coming into tonight and into Sunday and Monday, it will be making its way through Capricorn, where it's going to conjunct Saturn, it's going to conjunct the South Node, and it's going to conjunct Pluto, all making this very interesting aspect, very rare aspect, actually, especially when you take into account the rarity of the positions of these planets, called a yod. This is called the finger of God, and it's called this because it's very much so, this has this pointed aspect, or it looks like the head of an arrow, and all of the powerful energy right now is channeling in this direction, playing a part with, really, the universe is trying to give us these very, very prominent and loud signals on which way to go and which way to channel our energy in terms to align with our highest timelines right now. And coming into Saturday night, we could feel a shift from this sort of interesting adventure type of energy with, we also have Uranus and Jupiter, which have been stationary, and coming into Sunday, they're finally going to be direct. And this energy could feel like throughout the day, very much like there's these pieces of the puzzle and the chessboard kind of shifting around and moving in and out of all over the place. And we could feel like these sort of like interesting energies of almost like tests of one kind or another, where we're like floating in between dimensions and the pieces are getting reorganized so that essentially as we move into these next stages, that the proper pieces are in place for us to step into these interesting higher level dimensions and energies, depending on the directions that we choose and how we're moving. It can feel a little bit like chaotic, but also kind of like timeless, and like we're in this grand pause before these different chips fall, which very much so has to do with this finger of God or yod that's going on. Very much so you could equate this to kind of like a sword that's coming into play. There's a lot of archetypes of, like Arthurian legends and things like this that are coming into play. Brother the Leo King did a very good job of pointing this out in his powerful recent report, which was super on point. Big thanks to him for that. And I have some interesting aspects to go even deeper with that. So we're going to go into a few things and really describe the process of how this energy is moving through and what's coming into play. So for starters, as we get on to this chat, the sun is on the 7.5 and is going to be moving on to the 7.6 on Sunday, and then finally onto the 4 on Monday. And this is very significant because there's an interesting orchestration, kind of like a grand ceremony process to all this, as Sunday into Monday we really get into the more of the greater strength of this yod aspect. And with all this energy on the 7, we've really been asked to tap into both our inner guide and the guidance that's coming in our life. We've really been asked to be empathic and tuning into the greater stories, the archetypes that are at play within our life, within the cosmos, within the universe, and these kind of periods of like where it feels like divine cosmic guidance can come into play from our higher guides or aspects, really asking for us to tap into that leader that we have within that can make these very important decisions and channel into our heart of hearts and really synergize with this greater level, this higher level mission that's coming into play. Now, as we get into Sunday, right, this energy will start to come in where we become much more objective and we're looking at things from a little bit more of like a bird's eye view. And we also maybe starting to look beyond this aspect of empathically tuning into the guidance to really starting to formulate a plan for how we can actually take action on these different things, which will be leading into these bigger choices that are coming into play Sunday night into Monday, as we decide where we're going to play and which direction we're going to go in the movement of this whole kind of beautiful ceremony that's going on. Now, What's important to note here is this yod aspect that's going on is channeling energy from the south node in Capricorn, where Saturn and Pluto have been taking place and causing all these shifts and changes in our relationships and structures and dynamics of how we're going to interact with relationships and how that plays into business, and whether or not we're going to go backwards into these old repeated cycles and karmic loops and timelines that just haven't been serving us. And if we really look into it, we can see these patterns that have been playing out over and over again, and we can really tune into feeling so much like opposition or struggle from this area where, you know, our mind comes in and goes, are we just gonna go back into it and try and fix it? Maybe, you know, maybe we can fix it. And generally speaking, that's not really going to be the direction that we're going to want to take. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to tune into your authority and really make that decision, because there are going to be probably some unexpected shifts that come into play here in the next couple days. We have Jupiter that's going direct, is starting to move a lot of things forward, massive divine doors opening up, and then Uranus at the same time is going to go retrograde, really causing this unexpected shift into a completely new reality, which can kind of seem out of nowhere and definitely connected with this higher level spiritual journey and these doors opening that are coming into play. Now, the other aspect of the bottom end of this yod, or kind of the hilt of Arthur's sword that we have going on, is Neptune on the 22.2, which is really bringing this higher level spiritual grace into play. And the point is up there in Leo, where we have Venus, we have Mars, we have the sun, we have Juno in this, you know, kind of royal court going on up there that's connected to Regulus and the heart of hearts of this royal energy. And this is very much about reorganizing kind of the round table discussion within ourselves, and with also this cosmic orchestration that's going on, because really what's going on is a changeover of the guard, so to speak. If we can tune into that grail heart that we have within, that ever flowing, unexhaustible cup of bliss, and connected to pleasure and our higher level of that childlike energy within, then we are going to be knighted by this kind of like divine cosmic union, and being able to step on this timeline where we are our own inner star, and we are going to head towards this path of all of the things that we've truly been looking for in our life, if we have that courage to step into that role and timeline. With Neptune there on the 22.2, this is really about channeling this sort of higher spiritual, almost like a sacrifice, but what's really asking for us to do is go behind the veil. And, you know, we'll have aspects from the moon over to this energy, so we really have the ability to psychically tap in and tune in, although, you know, we want to be careful that we're not deceived at this time, because we can be so intuitively and psychically tapped in, although we can definitely be tapped highly into these other realms. And I really feel like this is actually going to be helpful for us to kind of see through the masks that are at play and allow this calling of grace to come in. Really, that's what the knighting is, with this yod or sword coming in, that's pointing us towards taking this cup in hand, or receiving this cup from this sort of higher level angelic energy, right? And another good brother of mine, Daniel Winter, if you've never checked out his information, I highly recommend it. This is all about the actual physics of how these sorts of Arthurian legends and different spiritual things come into play. And really what's going on here with this Grail Cup legend is that there's a certain synchronicity of these 7 layers of our heart all working in conjunction, where they all align into a coherent field, where, you know, we have the earth on the 13 right now, which is all about empathy. And really what this is being able to empathically tune into this higher level, in not just externally but internally, being able to tune into that bliss within, that bliss point, which really aligns us to tap into that cup, that inexhaustible cup that we have within. Because when we tap into our own hearts and find that leader and tap into our sovereignty and get out of our mind, then we can actually be presented with this cup that really gives us this sort of ability to transcend a lot of laws and rules, at least on the more physical plane, because we are so aligned that we become an instrument of divine will. And this can really feel like that grace descending if we choose this path. Now, the actual point that we have going on, the very tip of this yod or sword, as we can become sort of knighted on this Grail quest mission, right, that's going to really, if we take this path, we're going to see this sort of mission start to come into play, where a lot of these higher aspects of humanity and the army and these people coming together to support us in this mission, if we can take that leap that seems like, we just have to make this leap into the void, where if we jump and we follow that bliss channels all this energy into be able to kind of co-create, where the entire universe will support us and have our back, into being able to orchestrate this more higher level perfect reality that we've been looking for. If we can take that leap, it's kind of the jump and the net appears type of scenario. Where this energy is, of course, on Sunday is the 7.6, which is all about being able to tap into that higher level elected leader and be able to elect those inner kind of court members that we have, right? Now, as we get into Monday, it will be going under the 4.1. The 4.1 is really, in its highest essence, this is about forgiveness that goes on, right? Forgiveness of any of these past karmic baggages and ties that we may have with other people or with ourselves. Really, at the end of the day, this is us forgiving ourselves for, really forgetting our inner power and cutting ourselves off from this inner bliss, and really being able to forgive ourselves for forgetting that we have so much power, and forgetting that inner child that we have within, because this is really the seeding and birth of that inner sort of like Christic child that wants to unite with the sort of wisdom of the divine guides and the adult that we have. Now, what's interesting is this yod is very much so in the 4.1 and 4.2. The 4.1 in particular is that the highest level of pleasure that we can connect to, which has to do with not just like the lower mind pleasure also, but that is a part, right? Reconnecting to that aspect of us that can surrender to pleasure without having to like come in like a disciplinary agent and cut ourselves off, feeling this sort of like guilt, right? For maybe this guilt that can come into play. We're like, if I tap into this, is that okay? Like, shouldn't I shame myself or discipline myself in some sort of way? Because, oh God, like I deserve shame. I deserve this. I deserve to be locked in this sort of kind of like basement in this crowded, dank energy, and just keep going into this cycle where Saturn is over there over and over again, or where the South Node is in, the South Node right now that's on the other bottom hill is the 54. And this is really, in its highest essence, all about ascension. But it's about ascension in terms of the movement of currency, both within our body and on the physical plane. Our ability to tap into that place within us that can actually transcend the notion of being ashamed for maybe greed, or being ashamed for that part of us that actually wants to live on this higher level on the material plane. And it's no chance that Uranus is going direct on Sunday as part of this whole orchestration too, which is really asking for us to go up to the top of the elevator in terms of mirroring our external reality with our true selfless self-worth, right? Like that aspect of ourself that knows that on the highest levels we do deserve the most beautiful and most perfect reality if we can forgive ourselves, because that's really what's getting in the way, is all these shadows in our mind and these aspects of ourself that need to be recollected and tap into that inner child where that bliss is. But what the 4.1 really is saying is that this pleasure, this perfect pleasure of alignment and tapping into that highest timeline, has to do with a divine orchestrated timing, right? That's what this yod is saying, is that there's this very, very unique window and opportunity that we have where all of the pieces and all the players and all the core come in to support us in this way where it's like, are you going to be united and go on this mission and grab the cup and, be united with this sort of like divine union within? Because this is the opportunity that we have, and then we are going to see all the pieces unfold and see all those players play their very unique roles. Or are we going to go back to the same cycles that we've had within? And at this point, it's just very obvious where we're going. If we can just tap into those places that don't feel kind of like where there's like this tension or opposition, or kind of like, and I'm not saying those places of tension and opposition within, right? Because we can do that inner shadow work, and it's not saying to avoid that work. We're saying in terms of these directions that we want to go, we tap into our authority and we feel this is aligned or this is not. And we don't want to be going these directions of like where it's just kind of like, this just feels like icky, or like there's so much it's like opposition to this pleasure that we have. It's this being able to accept that pleasure is okay and not get into these old sort of patriarchal cycles of like, is this okay for me to actually feel my highest pleasure? Like, yes, that's really what's being called of us at this time. But now what's very interesting is as we get into Sunday and Monday, we are going to have the moon pass over Saturn and the South Node and Pluto, really saying this coming in is this sort of check, right? As we're making this decision, it's this last sort of like, reflection of these shadows coming in and going, are you really ready for your sovereignty? And once we make this decision, it's going, oh, are you sure? Right? Like in this sort of maybe challenge that can come in, or this sort of revealing of some sort of things going on behind the scenes, as it conjuncts with Pluto to say, are you really in your power? Are you in your deepest mystery? Are you surrendered to that mystery? Because that's where Pluto is on the 61.1, the deepest levels of occult truth. And if we make these choices, the moon is going to bring in the reflection of what it's like to have that highest level of empowerment where we connect with our deepest desire. And if we don't, we can kind of, be thrown off our game very easily, because it's like the inner masculine essence that we have can have this reflection of the external reality kind of come in and check us and go, that lunar feminine force comes in and goes, are you actually, are you standing there? Are you standing there holding that sword in your masculine essence, right? Are you going to be knighted and stand in your divine masculine? Or are you going to let the reality, right, the feminine essence of what's around us come in and push us over, like blowing over in the wind, right? Just not being able to stand and hold that sword. But at the same time, this sword is not that angry patriarchal masculine essence. It's that place that sort of bows as we're knighted to the divine feminine, not pushed over, right? But like, surrendering to what's coming in, this higher level of spirit, but being able to stand in our purpose, in our highest purpose, saying, this is what I'm taking the stance of, is for this true purpose. Not this sort of any sort of purpose that comes in and checks, like, I don't know, the mind comes in and goes, like, is it really worth it? Am I like just too different? Or like, do I really have that self-worth to be able to take this path? That's really what's coming in at this time. And this is such a powerful time of manifestation. It's like, it's really incredible and unbelievable. And I want to say, for any of you that want to be able to start to authentically, completely live, being able to see through the veil of this coded matrix in this program, and being able to step into that authenticity on any and every level and really align with the highest timeline, we have this 17-week course that I want you to check out. Give it a look, and we're really offering and asking you into these highest level timelines of authenticity, this co-creation of this new reality with us. Go to soulmapping.life/unveiling and check it out right now. We have a lot of options for you to come in and be part of this new family with us. And we put so much energy and love into this, and we're really looking to gather this sort of new level of co-creators to really manifest the highest of the high and the most authentic for all of us. So I'm going to be tapping into the cards to see what's the overarching energy that we can expect. What can we tune into to help us navigate some of these energies as we shift everything and really change the game? Because that's really what this is all about. If we can step into these levels, we're really going to change the entire game up and co-create the most beautiful world we could possibly imagine. And definitely gate 33. So, this is really interesting. My brother Leo King pointed out the other day that as the Venus will conjunct the Sun later on in the week, it will be conjuncting. Venus will just pass the Sun both on the 21st degree, which when we add it up into numerology is the 33rd, right? And this number 33 has been coming up anywhere and everywhere over the past few days for me, and this sort of cosmic roundtable that's been coming into my life. And what this is really saying is, are we hitting that top degree, the 33rd degree within our internal energy of allowing the Kundalini to spiral up and tapping into that really mythic level life where we can remember that we are that illuminated God consciousness, that we have the ability to choose these levels, to choose these highest timelines if we also remember that we are just a cell within this whole organism, that it's not the ego and the mind coming in, but this place where we can truly be connected to our divine soul family and settle into our perfect place within this organism and divinely surrender to our role. So I hope this has been helpful for you. As always, tap into your innermost authority, see if it feels right for you, and thanks for tuning in to the Astral Weather Report.